Ever wonder what universities are really thinking when they market to international students? On the one hand, they promise this incredible, life-changing cultural adventure. But what if their internal policies tell a completely different story? That's exactly what we're going to dive into today. Okay, let's just jump right in. Look at this. On one side, you've got the glossy brochure promise, a rewarding cultural experience. Then you look at the internal policy from the exact same university. And what does it say? They're good revenue generators. Whoa. So how can both of these things be true at the same time? To figure that out, we've got to understand a major shift in how universities operate. So to get to the bottom of this, we kind of have to peek behind the curtain, get inside the university's boardroom. And this brings us to the first big idea, thinking of the university as a business. It's a mindset that's changing everything. Now, there's a fancy academic term for this, neoliberalism. But honestly, let's just call it what it is, a business mindset. And it's a huge shift in thinking. The goal isn't just about, expanding your mind anymore. It's about making you, the student, more valuable to the economy, which, let's be real, also helps the university's bottom line. And what's really fascinating is how this business approach starts to change how we even see language. Suddenly, English isn't just a skill for communication. Nope, it's a product, a commodity that can be bought and sold. It has a price tag. And the better your English, well, the higher your value in this new kind of educational marketplace. You can literally see this way of thinking pop up in the language they use in their own private documents. I mean, check this out. One university's plan calls its English programs pipelines. Not classrooms, not communities, pipelines. Just think about that word for a second, pipeline. What does that actually imply? It makes students sound like a resource, like oil or gas, just something to be passively moved from point A to point B. It completely strips the humanity out of the whole process, right? Where's the discovery, the connection, the actual learning? And it doesn't stop with pipelines, oh no. In other policy docs, you see these programs talked about like they're machines. They're revenue generators that need to be harnessed. It's like education is a workhorse that's just there to pull a cart and fund other parts of the university. All of a sudden, the main goal isn't really education anymore, is it? It's about the money. And this one really gets me. At one university, the English Language Center is just a stepping stone. That word just minimizes the whole experience, doesn't it? It says, hey, this part of your journey doesn't really matter on its own. It's just a little hop you have to take to get to the real destination, the degree program. Okay, so that's the inside story, the business view. Now let's flip the coin. What's the story they're telling you, the public? This is where we get to the promise of transformation. So let's take a look at Hillside University. Inside the university, in their policies, the Language Center is a revenue generator. Simple as that. But on their website, what are they selling? A rewarding cultural experience. I mean, the contrast there is just, wow, it's night and day. And you see the exact same thing over at Forest University. The internal policy calls it a stepping stone, but the website? Oh, the website is selling you a dream. It's all about empowerment, success, building your confidence. They're marketing a journey of personal growth, not just checking a box. And for our last case study, Lakeview University, that cold mechanical pipeline we talked about, well, on the website, it magically transforms into a unique language learning experience. See the difference? The marketing paints this picture of students as these active explorers discovering new cultures, not just products flowing through a pipe. So you've got this huge gap between the policy and the promise, right? And this leads to a really interesting paradox, especially when you bring in one of the biggest buzzwords in higher education today, the global citizen. I mean, you've seen this, right? It's in pretty much every university's mission statement. It's a huge part of their brand. We're preparing our graduates to be global citizens. It sounds great, but it makes you wonder, what do they actually mean by global? Because when you dig into the details, the answer is, well, it's a lot narrower than you might think. So here's what the research found, and this is pretty eye-opening. The phrase global citizen shows up 19 times in all the policies they looked at. And you know how many times it was connected to learning another language like Spanish or Chinese? Almost zero. The unspoken assumption is that being a global citizen is something that happens in English. Other languages, they're really only mentioned when it comes to recruiting students, not actually educating them once they're there. Okay, so we've laid it all out. There's this massive split between the business reality on the inside and the inspiring story they sell on the outside. So, what's the big deal? Why does this actually matter?
Well, for the students, the impact can be huge. Think about it. You're investing your hopes, your dreams, and a ton of money based on this promise of a transformative experience. And then you get there and you start to feel like you're not seen as a student, but as a line item on a budget. It creates this really painful gap between the dream you were sold and the reality you're living.
And this isn't just about one person's disappointment, it's bigger than that. This whole business first approach really wastes the amazing potential you get from having a diverse international campus. Instead of creating this incredible place where lots of languages and cultures mix, you end up with this sort of English-only bubble. And that's a huge missed opportunity for everybody, not just the international students.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. When a university's promise of a life-changing education is really just a marketing slogan for a business plan, who's the one that ultimately pays the price?